Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright folks, so for this video, to tackle this issue, I need to channel my inner Greek. And that's because when I saw the headline and when I watched the video, my immediate reaction was, what is this malakia? And that word's not to be confused with the famous word malaka. Now because of the environment that I grew up, I never actually learned how to speak Greek. But from my understanding and seeing some of my family members use the word malakia means bullshit or stupidity. Something that you hear and it's just pure nonsense, pure garbage.
It's malakia. It's malakia. 100% malakia.
Well, that's the reaction that I had watching this little clip from The View. ABC's The View continues to be the biggest garbage on TV. The biggest malakia on TV.
100% malakia.
And of course, like usual, we just gotta talk about it. Let's call out the BS where we see it. Let me show you guys what craziness Whoopi Goldberg is saying this time. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, take a look at this from the Daily Wire. Whoopi Goldberg wonders if anything will change unless police beat white people. Whoopi Goldberg suggested on Monday that nothing would ever truly change with regard to police brutality until officers started beating white people. Take a look at this.
We need to get people to do the job who know what the job is.
Yep.
People who have a sense of humanity. It was very easy for these folks, and I couldn't watch it. I have had it up to here with this.
Same.
I've had it up to here because I don't know what we have to do. I don't get it. I don't understand why we are constantly asking and asking and asking. Is it just because folks have dehumanized us and made us like some kind of monsters? I listen to that other side on television, and they talk about us like we have no humanity. So I don't know what it's going to take, but I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like that there is some thought process that actually might get us one step beyond the idea of murder being the first thing in people's minds, whether it's a traffic stop for a lady who's smoking in her car and you don't understand why she doesn't want you in her face, but you kill her and everybody goes, oh, that's really sad. Or any other. I'm sick of this. You should be sick of this. Are we? Then make sure that when you have the opportunity to make the changes that need to be made, make them. Don't sit around and just talk about them. Let's get something done, because this is not going to stop until we stop it. It is up to us.
You know, it's moments like these where you really start to realize that these leftoids are just not paying attention. You know, we're not having a back and forth conversation here. They're just talking in circles. Frankly, it seems almost like they're talking to themselves. They're just trying to make themselves feel morally superior. They're never actually addressing talking points from the other side. There's no back and forth. You know, we listen to all their talking points and we address them. But the way they speak sometimes is almost an open admission that they're just not operating in good faith. They're not actually listening to the other side. This statement proves the ignorance of the woke activist left. We've been saying it for years, that these incidences of police brutality don't solely affect people of color. You're just living in a damn bubble. I mean, let's just take fatal police shootings, for instance. The majority of people who are fatally shot by police officers are white, as you guys can see by the data over here. It's just that these cases never seem to get the light of day. In fact, a couple weeks ago, a white male in a trailer park was shot multiple times by the police department's SWAT team outside of his home as he exited the trailer, I think with a flashlight in his hand, with his arms raised, and the police officers thought that it was a weapon. That happened a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was the CCTV footage that was released a couple weeks ago. Not a single peep. Nobody says anything. It gets no coverage. Now, of course, I know leftoids are going to be looking at the data that I'm presenting and say, well, Black Americans are overrepresented in fatal police shootings in respect to population percentages, and there you'd be correct. But the assumption that the only reason that's the case is because of the pigmentation of their skin, I think is utterly preposterous. We all know the typical counter-argument, which leftoids claim is racist, but it's not racist, it's basic logic. Violent crime rates in these inner city communities is just higher, and so you see that overrepresentation. These leftoid talking points are BS, pure and simple, and I find them incredibly frustrating because the trend here is a total lack of accountability and utter hypocrisy, and the constant demonization of police officers is despicable, and every single talking point falls flat on its face. You know, with this racial angle that these activists tend to take, that the problem is white police officers in the black community. Well, they advocated for years that black communities should be policed by black police officers. I personally find that stance and that idea extremely unfortunate. It almost hints at segregation, but in many cases, the activist base got what they wanted. Well, clearly with the Tyre Nichols situation, that didn't exactly solve the problem. And also the point here that Whoopi Goldberg is making, the statement that reforms will only happen once white people start getting targeted and beaten down by the police, I find it a little bit ironic because the implication is that people will only care about these lives once a certain part of the population is affected negatively. Well, here's the ironic part and the question I'm asking myself. Hopefully I can make this point in a coherent manner, but what's it going to take for people to start caring about the loss of life in inner city communities to gang violence? You know, every couple of months with no information, no understanding of the context, there's a case like the Tyre Nichols situation, and people jump to conclusions, they virtue signal about it, they try to get as much attention as possible on the back of that situation, and then they just disappear. What is it going to take for the activist left and people like Whoopi Goldberg to care about the thousands of deaths every single year as a result of black on black gang violence? Friggin' crickets. You can't just use policing as a scapegoat when there's clearly a much larger problem here that you leftoids in your activism choose to conveniently ignore and put all the blame and all the spotlight and all the focus, all the hate and all the vitriol on your white supremacist police officer narrative, scapegoat, which they're still promoting, by the way.
From between Judge Floyd and today, nothing has changed. I very much doubt that anything will change until we eradicate the source of this problem, which is white supremacy.
Not to mention the leftist activism here is actually partially to blame for a lot of the situations that we see these days. Sunny Hostin asked this question later on in the show.
I just don't know if the answer is more funding for the police. New York City has $6 billion of police funding. Memphis, I believe, had $275 million in 2022. It's now $284 million in 2023. That's the projected budget. I don't know if it's about putting more money towards the police. I think.
And the answer is probably yes, because we're now getting reports that Memphis PD dramatically lowered standards before hiring officers charged in the Tyre Nichols situation. Leftist activists have demonized police officers, they've made it a more dangerous job than ever before, they've advocated and pushed and succeeded in many jurisdictions to strip funds away from police departments, and now they're shocked, dismayed, appalled when things go bad. It's friggin' clown world. This is why leftists can never solve complex societal problems, because they're living in friggin' fairy tale land. Everything is black and white. There's a level of naivete and ignorance that permeates all of their ideas, policies, and stances, and in their effort to promote positive change, they almost always make things worse. Look, the world is a complicated place, and you know what? Police departments are never going to be perfect. There's always going to be rogue police officers, corrupt police officers, unfortunate situations that lead to tragic ends. That's just human society and human nature. The idea that police departments and policing in America is this grand systemic plague in society just isn't accurate. It doesn't represent the totality of facts and circumstance. Are there issues in policing? Absolutely. Are there solutions that can be pursued to make things better? Yes. And most of it has to do with training and the quality of recruits. But there's also another element to the story, an element that leftists refuse to accept. There's a constant demonization of police officers who are trying to keep communities safe, and on the other end, a massive amount of ignorance and copium and zero accountability for criminal and gang culture. This intersectionality oppression hierarchy, this simplistic view of victim and oppressor, completely masks one of the most important elements of this story. Leftists, once again, are more focused on the narrative rather than the truth, and that's why they're living in a damn fantasy land, and that's why they're never going to solve any of these complex cultural, societal issues. Whether the ignorance is willful or unwillful, it's ignorance nonetheless, and it's standing in the way of real progress. No facts, no logic, no nuance, just racial division. Yep, sounds like Democrat rhetoric to me. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.